Welcome to the Digital Forensics Podcast, Forensics Now podcast. Today is Thursday, April 11th, 2024. My name is Alexis Brignoni, aka Briggs, and I'm accompanied by my co-host, the Uber Decoder, the Facts Compiler, the Knowledge Distributor, the one and only Heather Charpentier. The music is Higher Up by Shane Ivers and can be found at silvermansound.com. Hello, Heather.
Hello. Thank you for the great introduction, as always.
The Uber Decoder. I know you dig that. We'll talk about that later, folks.
I do like it.
Welcome, everybody. Happy to have you here. I see already folks starting to roll in. And Lori, good to see you, and I'll see you a little bit more later. I'll be talking to her class after the show, so I'm really excited about that. Happy Thursday to Jess in the chat and Jeremy. Tell me, Heather, what's been going on since last time we were here?
Been working, and I actually had to deal with jury duty this week. So I got summoned for jury duty and had to sit at the courthouse all day waiting to see if I was going to be selected for a jury, and I was not. Thankfully, so that's
a constitutional responsibility, lady. Yeah, come on, you should be sad.
I testify enough. I don't need to go on another jury or on a jury.
Yeah, like I've been on all these chairs. I don't need more chairs.
Yeah. No, I don't want to sit there. Plus, I've done it before. One time in your life is enough. So.
No, it's I mean, we joke about it, but yeah, obviously an important thing to do as a citizen, be part of a jury. Yeah. But if somebody else can do that, that's fine too, and we can keep working.
They picked 8 great people for the jury, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, folks might remember that the eclipse happened 2 days ago or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was exciting. I think you saw less of the sun than me during the eclipse, right?
Yeah, ours wasn't super impressive. Like, I saw everybody's pictures online, and I was like, I want to be there. It was really cloudy and just not as good as all of the other locations. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, no. We had here in Florida, at least where I was, maybe 50%, almost 60% of the sun. So I thought it was still worthwhile checking it out. So yeah. I want to share with folks a picture here of some stargazers at my house.
Oh.
As you can see, we made sure that we spared no expense to make sure that my kids didn't get any sunlight, the direct sunlight in their eyes. So for the folks that are listening, you have the eclipse glasses, right? Well, we took a paper plate, for food, and we cut it in a way that it covered the top and the side, so they could only see through the eclipse lenses, right?
Oh, that's perfect.
And I mean, especially the little ones, super excited for all of 3 minutes. They're like, okay, bye. Oh, Kevin says that his eyes still hurt, man.
I see that.
Yeah, get that checked out. That could be a problem.
Keep your glasses on.
Yeah, I need you with eyes. You're the one that's running the repositories right now. So, for folks who don't know what a repository is, sounds like something else, but no, it's a place we put our code for our projects. Okay, don't get confused.
Yeah, he cannot go blind.
Exactly. No, but it was a great experience. So I mean. Let me take this out. And the kids enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed it. I'm hoping that at some point I'll be able to travel somewhere in the world to see a full eclipse. Because the next one is gonna be coming through the U.S. That's gonna be kind of full blown in Florida, where I could see it. It's gonna be in 20 years.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I'll be in my, 60-something. So I'm like, you know what? I might want to do that before getting to almost 70.
I'm sure you'll go see it still anyway.
Yeah, I'll do both. Hopefully, if everything goes well and the universe wants me alive, I'll enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jessica says, how many attorneys would want a digital forensic person on the jury? Jessica, it was a civil trial. I was really worried they were going to pick me.
most likely both sides.
Right? Yeah.
on the civil side, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no. So that's what happened. I did some parsers. We're gonna talk about that. Thanks to your work, Heather, we did some parsers for a pretty neat app.
Yeah.
And presentations and regular work. So that's what happened these 2 weeks.
Nice. Well, let's get into it then.
Right
so
on.
I'm going to announce a job alert that's coming up soon. If anybody wants to move to the beautiful Albany, New York, and come work with me, we're going to be posting our civilian positions within the next probably like week or two. I would guess probably next week, but I'd say a week or two. We're going to have several spots open, and it starts from like an entry level, and then there's additional job titles for people with a little more experience. So it would be based upon your experience. It's not a remote job. You would have to come and live in Albany. But the title is Computer Forensic Analyst. And let me put up the website. It'll be on the page afterwards too. But this will be the website that you'll want to check and look for that posting in the future, near future.
Yeah, and that's something that folks ask me, well, how do I get into this field? And one of the things I tell them is, obviously you get your degrees or your certifications, that all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. But one way is by looking for posting like this one, where you go into a law enforcement capacity and you learn that aspect of the digital forensics process, and you can do that for your whole career. This is excellent work. I mean, I'm one of those, right? or you eventually can transition to the private sector, right? But that's a really good way. Obviously, the New York State Police, really, a big agency, well known, good work's being done there.
I should have said New York State Police. I'm just assuming people know where I work. But yes, New York State Police is where the job is.
Exactly. So, a really, really good agency with a lot of impact in regards to the things that are happening in the state. So I personally think it would be a great opportunity for anybody and everybody if they get picked. So be on the lookout for that posting. And
you get to work with me. I mean, what more could you want?
Well, see everything was going like up, and
I'm scaring people away.
Now we're crashing.
I'm scaring people away. Damn.
I kid.
Some other things going on right now in the community are capture the flags. I don't know. I didn't know there were so many capture the flags going on. So one of the capture the flags is Hexordia has a weekly capture the flag. It began April 1st, and it's every Monday at 11. There's a new weekly challenge unlocked. So for participants, each challenge lasts a week. And then there's additional ways to earn points by writing blogs. And there's bonus questions throughout the weeks. And those are announced on Twitter or X and LinkedIn. The way to find those additional bonus questions is to follow Hexordia and Jessica Hyde and Kevin Pagano and Geraldine Bly and Cesar Caseda, because they'll be posting those challenge questions on the social media platforms. It's a great way to get involved in the community and a great way to get your start in blogging, especially since there's those additional points if you're writing up the blogs. And I read online too, there's a chance to win prizes, including seats in some of the Hexordia classes.
Oh, and folks that, I mean, both of us, me and Heather and myself, we've been at some of those courses, and they're fantastic. Jess and her team have made courses with really relevant, timely content to the work that you do. Some of these courses that you take somewhere else, you talk about conceptually about how things are, and you actually do them. And I was chatting with Jess the other day, and I think you also get points by, if you code, you can make some parsers. And if you make a parser in one of the leaps, the project that the community we use for parsing mobile devices, you get extra points for that too. So it's a great way, the blogging, the coding, to put your name out there, to learn and start building your brand. And if this is the first time you hear us speak here, or you missed last episode, I really invite you to hear the last episode. We have a big section on how to build your brand in the digital forensic space. And this is one of the things we discuss. And here's a real way of actually making it happen. So take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention, I don't know if you know, but Jess, she has a
Another capture the flag that's going on is with oxygen forensics. It hasn't started yet. It's open for registration right now, though. April 8th through the 18th is registration, and then the challenge details will be released on April 19th. I think that you need to have access to an oxygen license to participate. Don't 100% quote me on that. Reach out to Oxygen and find out if they'll do the trial license. But another great opportunity to do those capture the flags and learn more about forensics.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to give the folks, the community, trial license. It's a great product. It's a great product as well. I like Oxygen a lot too. So.
Yeah. And then the last one, actually, this capture the flag just ended, the Belkasoft, but the images are available. So if anybody's looking for test data, or really if you just want to go do the capture the flag, even though it's not still actively a challenge, like it's not up as a active capture the flag, go get those images and check it out. There's also blogs and write-ups that are starting to come out on that capture the flag and the details of how people were able to answer the questions. It's a great way to learn how other people were able to solve them. It might not be the way that you would have gone about it, and you may learn a new technique or two.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe the images are just as valuable as the exercises themselves, right? As the CTF itself. I used that image to test out some of the parsers that we were working on this week. Heather and myself. So because it had some of those apps in there. So again, get the image and practice with them. And that's the whole thing with this field. If you're just reading and not practicing, you're not getting the full benefit or the full growth that you could get otherwise. So open those images and work with them.
Right, definitely. I think that's all the capture the flags going on right now. Hopefully I didn't miss any.
Oh no, it's capture the flag season.
Yeah.
So that and I wish, sadly, it hasn't. For both of us, we don't have enough time because actually, let me say this: we're actually ramping up to start IASIS. In 9 days? I want to say
9 days.
Yeah, right. Is that right? Yeah. So that's why we haven't been able to play in any of these.
Yeah. Because
we'll be instructing the Advanced Mobile Device Forensics course for IASIS. I think there's still some spots that are filling out. So you want to hang out with us for a week and nerd out.
Yeah.
Come on, it'll be Heather, myself, John Hyla, and Bill. What's his? Bill. I forgot his last name. Bill's gonna be with us.
Yes.
We'll look it up, but it's a pretty good group of people.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Want to highlight too this week, Magnet came out with some new stuff for Axiom. So they released version 8, and in version 8, the first thing I'll tell you guys about is mobile view. So it gives a representation of iOS and Android devices that are being presented in Axiom with the ability to select the icons for supported apps that are loaded on the phone. So I'm going to show a little preview of that. Let me.
Yeah, and as Sarah's bringing that up, I think this way of looking at the data, it's, how can I say this? It's really useful because we're so used to looking at the data the same way in all applications, in the third-party applications. What I mean by that is the companies that sell us tools. They're different, but they're still the same, like the movie, right? I know you didn't get that reference, but it's different, but still the same. I'll tell you about the movie later.
Okay.
But this way, it's really intuitive, and I don't see anybody doing it this way. And I think it's the next evolution of how you can have folks with minimal amount of computer knowledge be able to at least pick out some of the artifacts, like low-hanging fruit artifacts, and making our lives easier. So you're going to show us how that works, right? Yeah,
I am. And I definitely love this. I'm super picky about new features in the tools, if you haven't heard. And I really like this one. So I processed one of my test images just the normal way. Nothing changed with the way you go about processing it. But over on the left-hand pane, under evidence sources, you can choose a device. And when you click on the device, this image of an iPhone comes up, and it's got the icons to the applications that are installed on my test device. They're not exactly in the same location as they are on my test device, so I wouldn't depend on it for that. But the cool thing about this is you can get a quick look at the applications that are installed, and then you can click on any of the applications and it will bring you to the artifacts that relate to the application. So I clicked on the Apple Notes and it brought me to the 3 notes that I have saved in this test data.
Yeah, and folks needs to be aware. You're looking at the kind of like an image of the iPhone in this case with all the apps. This is not virtualization, so don't get confused. Okay,
No.
it's not, you're not virtualizing the phone or interacting with the image being virtualized. No, this is just a representation, and the apps show up on this screen as they were in the order they were processed. Right, there's nothing special about it.
Right.
But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and the bottom row will always look the same. I think I heard Chris Vance explaining that in the video that introduces the product. So the bottom row stays the same, but the apps will change as you process new phones. It's just the order.
Right. And Jessica's pointing out in the chat that it also will show you unsupported apps. So there's a little toggle above the phone, and you can switch, which let me go back. Oh. And it crashed. Okay, well, it crashed, so I'm not going to open it back up right now.
The demo gods always, at some point, catch up to us. The demo gods will catch up to us.
So I'm just going to tell you about that feature. Above the phone, there's a little toggle where you can switch over to unsupported apps, and it will bring up icons for unsupported apps on the image of the iPhone for my test data. I really like that because they're not always right there up front and in your face for you to see the unsupported apps, right? And when we go to our forensic tools, we see the supported apps because that's what the tool supports and that's what it's parsed. But this gives you the opportunity to go look for those unsupported apps and further investigate them.
And describe me verbally, like so it shows like a placeholder, or it actually shows the icon. What's the visualization of those unsupported?
Yeah, so when I looked at them before, they weren't like an icon with the app image, but they were just little icons on the screen, and they had the package name underneath, so it would tell you which application it was. Yeah,
and that makes sense. That tells me that obviously they have a data internally, I would assume, kind of linking the ones that are unknown, but the ones that are unknown have the package name.
Right.
For folks that don't know what that is, it will be like it looks like a URL but in reverse, right? Like the name of musically.com.musically. whatever. And then you know what app that is by looking it up.
And then Magnet Forensics put out a blog about it too, about the mobile view that explains all of it in further detail. But it's really a neat feature, in my opinion. Yeah,
and I was saying a second ago that this really helps with people who are not super into the weeds like us examiners that are listening here or folks in this field. The view is also portable. So when you make a portable case, your reviewers, non-technical reviewers, will be able to tag the items through that view, which I think is extremely useful. I foresee my users defaulting to that view from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I think it'll be super helpful for non-technical people, definitely.
And I find it interesting because we companies, right, may spend a lot of money in adding a lot of features. And actually, I'm gonna jump the gun here, Heather, so forgive me, right? Even Magnet itself, something that we're gonna talk about in a second, is that they added some AI stuff to Axiom 8, right? Yes. And in my mind, there's a lot of investment, time and investment. But I find it interesting that just how you view the data might provide more direct and transcendental impact that maybe adding something as complex as AI. Not that AI is bad, right? AI is a good thing. I will talk about it in a second, and it has its pros and cons. But just imagining how can we take the usual way of doing things and tweaking it and thinking of our users or the different types of users. How can we make that more data accessible? It can make changes that might be larger than or more impactful than what it seems at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited about the mobile view. I'm really excited of seeing how my stakeholders react to it. And I will report back what folks are thinking of the new visualization feature.
Yeah, besides my little crash right there, I've been messing around with it and I really like it. And it hasn't crashed until now, of course.
Look, the demo gods will do that. They figure out, oh, you need to show this, we're gonna crash it just to spite you.
Yep, definitely.
You didn't give them an offering before you start. That's the problem.
That must be it. So the new AI feature in Axiom 8 is called Copilot. And there's another blog here that Magnet Forensics put out, and that link will be on our page after. But this one is part of the Magnet Idea Lab right now. So I don't think we can discuss like a ton of details, but it identifies deep fakes and is able to quickly surface evidence with the AI tools in Magnet Axiom. So it's able to analyze images and videos to determine if they're synthetic or generated. And then it's also, you're able to do searches in the case data. So like in the chat threads or the web searches and the images, you're able to use that AI feature to do searches about the data in your case.
Yeah, I think they shouldn't keep it in the down low. I don't want Microsoft to hear that their AI is called Copilot, just like Microsoft's.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Maybe if you can write the word insights with EYE, they can write Copilot with a K or a Q. Solved. Problem solved. There we go.
Yeah, definitely.
Copilot with a K. There we go. And insights with EYE.
Yeah.
Nice. Some folks are lost about that joke. I'm sorry. You had to listen to previous episodes to get the joke.
Definitely.
It's too long of an explanation.
Yeah. I started to mess with the AI thing. I haven't really gotten into it yet. And I'm not so sure that I'll be able to use that, though, in my agency. There's some details about it that might just not fit with our policies, but it sounds cool. And I started to mess around with it. So everybody should sign up. Yeah,
and actually, I want to get into that a little bit, right? Because it reminds me of Jurassic Park. And I'm not. Look, let me set the table first, right? I'm not against the concept or the tooling. Right now, I'm doing my devil's advocate portion of the show, right? So don't take me now as taking a position necessarily. I just want to express some viewpoints, right? So now here I go. Table's been set. It's like in Jurassic Park, right? It's like just because we have the power to do it doesn't mean that we maybe should have do it, right? And that's the point, right? So obviously for us that are examiners and we know how this works, right? AI is a functionality that uses a lot of CPU cycles, specifically GPU CPU cycles, right? And for those who are not familiar with that, the way that works is they have a big rig with a whole bunch of video card looking things with that video memory and processors and stuff to do the heavy lifting of an AI. You got to remember that AI is a process that will take data, will learn from it, and will respond and give you answers based on natural language interactions. What that means is that you will ask the AI a question. AI, were there any chats about X and Y during the last year? And the AI will say yes or no, or here they are, or whatever it is, okay? So that requires a lot of processing power. That processing power is not your forensic machine from 2003.
Right, yeah, no.
Running Windows 10, and you're trying to hopefully maybe update that to 11. And hiding the Windows 7 ones that you have around, okay? It's not. So what that means is that you have to send that data out. And that's where the complications might happen, right? There's a lot of policies in a lot of labs that the computers need to be segmented from the outside world for obvious reasons. That protects in a chain of custody sense. It protects the evidence from possible taint in regards to data being exfiltrated or somebody coming in and putting stuff where they shouldn't be and messing up that case, right? So when you want to take that data and work with an AI with the processing power that's not in your site, is remote, that means that data needs to leave your site. And that's a host of complications. The first complication is where's this data placed, right? I mean, where is it? Where does it go? How is it secured? What happens when it's intruded? And again, I'm not saying anything about Magnet or Axiom, okay? What I'm talking about is in general sense. If you're in the computer security information space, you have to assume that things will be intruded. That's how this business works. It's not if we're gonna get hacked, it's when we're gonna get hacked, right? And based on that concept, we need to understand if we're having things on the cloud or being shuttled off somewhere else, how is that being secure? Just telling me, don't worry, I got it, it's not going to cut it, right? The type of data, let's say I was thinking about this yesterday. I do my best thinking when I'm showering. I was thinking, what happens when you get grand jury data, right? And when you get grand jury data, for folks that are not familiar with that, is provided for really specific purposes. It's secret. It's for investigations, and the folks that have access to it have to be in a particular list to get grand jury data, right? For the investigations, based on that probable cause and all that good stuff, right? It's a really serious thing, extremely serious. The control of this data is serious business. Am I putting an outside entity in my access list from my grand jury data? Like, is that what's required now? Well, the AI is. Oh, I think I'm losing my video here. Can you see? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
All right, my video's kind of coming in and out. All right. Right. So you can tell me, well, the machine is a machine. It doesn't know, right? So you cannot put a machine in this type of list. But again, the data now is not under my full control, right? So we have to start thinking about how in our field in general, is this something that we want to do? And if we're going to do it, how can we do this in a way that's proper, right? That actually follows the forensic process. I'm not criticizing it for putting this feature out in the way they did. I believe that the way you open new ground is by walking actually through it, right? moving the in the woods and the with the overgrown plants going, making that road, if that makes sense. But again, it needs us to work with these providers to tweak those features in ways that follow our policies, procedures, and the digital forensic process. I think Magnet has done that by the fact that they've done it. First of all, they've done it. You have to register. You have to opt into it, and they put some warnings, right, before you start using it, right?
Yes.
So I believe Magnet has done the due diligence to let the users understand that, hey, we're making this available, but it's on you, right? It's like, again, we're giving you a knife. You can butter your bread or you can stab somebody, but don't come at me because I gave you the knife, right?
Right.
So there's a whole stuff, I believe, issues there in just the process of getting the data in and coming back to you and how you're going to use it. And that's different from how we're interacting with the AI itself, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I want to use it, of course, but definitely have to watch out for things that could potentially compromise the evidence, I guess.
Yeah, and I think if I were to put my prediction hat, I think at some point it's gonna become a little bit kind of unavoidable to start moving data outside of fully like physically controlled environments, because it's gonna be blurred. Those lines are getting blurred more and more, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about data in your networks, especially agencies that are across state, right? Let's say an example, a big state like Texas. I'm making this up, but imagine Texas. And you have this law enforcement agency that operates in different offices. Well, those offices exchange data within themselves, right? The data is within their networks, but physically, that data is being shuttled across miles and miles and miles, right?
Right.
So we have to start thinking about how we're gonna start how the digital forensics concept of labs, air gap labs, will fit into this new space where the demarcation is not so much physical, it's virtual. And how's that gonna happen? I don't have the answers, but we'll see them. We'll get that growth moving forward.
Find out eventually, right?
I'll be processing a case from Mars. That's what's gonna happen.
So moving on out of that topic there, there's a few good blogs that have come out in the last couple weeks too. So I hope everybody follows Josh Hickman, the Binary Hick. If you don't, you need to. His blogs are awesome. But the one that came out this past week is about investigating power events on Samsung devices. It shows the powering event shows the why. So why did the user power down, or why did the device power down? I'm sorry. The file that he's referencing in his blog is called err.p. And you need a full file system to obtain this file, but it indicates things such as if this shutdown was user requested, or if the file may represent a no power situation, values that appear when the phone was on a charger, reboot events with user requested indicators, and it shows phone crashes. And the blog also goes on to discuss other files related to powering events, such as the power off reset reason.txt and the power off reset reason backup.txt. And the last line of the blog is sometimes investigations can come down to the smallest details. So having context around events is always valuable. I couldn't agree with that more. So I saw this powering events blog and I thought immediately of a case I had where you don't realize that the small details are going to be really important to maybe your investigator or your district attorney. But I had a case where the powering events were what was important. It was an iOS, but it was really important when that device was powered off. It was really important when it powered back on. And one of the questions I was asked about the case is, how do you know the battery didn't just die? How do you know the user powered it off? So blogs like this just immediately made me think of a specific case that I had.
Oh, look, every artifact that's tied or ties or lets me know about user actions is a potential smoking gun artifact. That's just how it is. I repeat again, every user interaction artifact could be the key to your case.
Definitely.
And you might not imagine. And again, like your case is so great. Actually, Kevin is saying we need to make some parsers. I think we have some. I think the ER we have it, but we have to revisit those and maybe add some of the detail from Josh's new blog post. Because I don't know if we're capturing. I'm not sure we're capturing all the details that Josh explained in his blog post. So Kevin and myself, we need to give it a look. But yeah, and keep that in mind, folks. When you look at artifacts, they're not sterile things, numbers and letters, right? They tell us about what the user did with the phone and when the user did it. Turning the phone off, I don't know, when I go to sleep, although nobody does that, but when you go to sleep, might not be that important. But turning the phone off before you walked in, I'm making this up, to rob a bank, right?
That's a big deal.
yeah. You know, let me turn this off. I don't want to be tracked moving forward, right? And that's just a silly example, but those are important. And you have to think about, especially within the pattern of life analysis, when things happen, when you hit a button to turn the screen on, power it off, like you're saying in your example. Actually, I read. That reminds me of a news article that I read about a case where this person was saying that I think it was a murder case like that, and the person said, well, within the time of the murders, I lost power on my phone, right? I lost power, so that's why my phone was off. And that was not true. You could see that the phone had power, like whatever percentage, and after the murders, then the percentage, started to increase because it got right. Plugged in, right? Things like that. So really, really, really exciting blog post when some stuff like that comes out.
So yeah, in my case specifically, that question was presented. How do you know the battery didn't just die? And using those pattern of life events, I was able to see that the phone had been plugged in and charging for like the prior 3 hours. So there's no way it would have died. I mean, we're probably at 100%. But yeah. So
I love those kind of Columbo moments.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing.
But it was definitely something I didn't even think to look for because I at the time just didn't see why it would be important. But once you have all of the details of the case, those little things become important.
I mean, there's nothing more to add. You're absolutely correct.
So my favorite.
So, but before you start, I'm gonna I'm gonna take the soapbox that I had last week, and now I'm gonna put it on your side of the screen, or this side. And now it's your turn to give us the meat of this episode. I'm really excited about this topic.
So I'm always talking about reporting and how I hate the reports, but as the examiner, it's our job to be able to create an impactful forensic analysis report, right? So even if you don't like the way maybe certain tools kick out reports, create your own reports. So I just kind of wanted to go over like some of the things I find are important, and hopefully you'll join me here with us. But there's some of the things I think are important with reporting. So one of the very first things is know the details of the case prior to starting the analysis and reporting. There's nothing worse than going down a rabbit hole and chasing what you think is evidence just to find out that it has absolutely nothing to do with your case. And I am speaking from experience on that one. It may look like, oh my God, this is the artifact that's going to be it. And if you don't have all of the details of your case, it can end up just being a giant waste of time.
Yep. No, look, the reporting, I named, when I put the episode together, to put it out for everybody, I put reporting for this section from possible disaster to attainment, right? And I did that on purpose, and Heather's going to go through those reasons, right? The reporting, how do you portray the information, right? First of all, either you use your time wisely or not, but also can make and break your case, right?
Right.
And I didn't say we're going to go from reporting from disaster to success or from disaster to, to achievement, right? Mm-hmm. Because this field, we're not here to win. Hopefully that makes sense for folks. I'm not winning anything, right? I guess the win is to be able to portray the facts in the most clear manner, portray reality, or portray what's on these devices in a way that's consistent with how they were actually used in the real world at a particular point in time. Right. That's our attainment, right? This is not me. I'm going to win the case. I'm going to make sure the person is innocent or guilty. As examiners, we don't see the world this way, right? And reporting is the last piece that could make or break this whole thing.
Right. So with reporting, in my opinion, pumping out reports created by tools is not enough. So it's not enough when it comes to reporting forensic analysis of any digital evidence. Dumping all the parsed data into a reader or a portable case is not a forensic analysis. A non-existent or poorly written report can put the outcome of an entire case at risk, and also put your integrity and the risk of the integrity of your entire agency if there's not a detailed report to go along with those tool reports. I'd say if you're going to take the time and say that you're performing an analysis, the report is going to be that crucial part that is able to portray the data that you've seen. You see the entire story to your case. Now put it down on paper so somebody else sees the same thing that you see. That makes sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And when you make the point of just pumping out the report is not enough, one of the reasons, like you're saying, it's not enough is that a lot of times you have something on your screen. Okay, I want this, right? I hit the report. It doesn't look as it looked in my processing screen. What happened here? Either something is extra. I did not want this. Why is this here? This loses focus of what I want. Or where's the stuff that I actually wanted?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So the report can either, you got to make sure that something's not missing, make sure that nothing is being added. And like you're saying, most likely you're going to have to redo a lot of it.
Right. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think another example of that too is the artifacts that a non-technical person doesn't necessarily understand, right? So you and I had a conversation, I think last week about TikTok, and the application package name doesn't have the word TikTok in it anywhere. It says Musical.ly, which is what TikTok used to be, but a non-technical person that you're submitting your report to, if TikTok is important and they're looking for that application usage, they're not going to see it because they're not looking for Musical.ly. And if you're not adequately explaining that in your report, like, hey, TikTok is your main application for this case, and this is what it's called, and here's where I'm showing you that it was being utilized on this device, they're never going to see it.
That's a great example, and I'm going to steal it from you from now on, just so you know.
I thought I stole it from you, kind of, but...
Well, you made it better. Because, and I love it, because just the fact that a difference in name, in one little name, how we refer to it as a user, and how the system internally refers to it, makes a big difference. So yeah. I love that, how you put it together. I'm gonna steal it from you.
Oh, thanks. I used that little trick when I used to teach at a college too. So I would do practicals, and that would be it. Like, look at the application usage and tell me if these applications were being used on the phone. And I'd always throw in TikTok because it doesn't have the name. Gmail also doesn't have the word Gmail in it. It's GM. So if you're just doing a search in the search bar, you'll miss that. And they almost always got it wrong. So, tricky question.
That's what we call in this business a teaching point,
yes.
or a teaching moment lesson.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, though, the tool reports are necessary. You have to have the tool reports to show the artifacts that you're seeing, whether it be a reader or a PDF or an HTML or whatever. They need to be included. But there needs to be that write-up from you explaining the evidence that you're putting out in that tool report. Believe it or not everything in the phone comes out in the PDF, HTML reader, or whatever format you're choosing. So you may see things while you're analyzing data that end up being key items to your case, and you have to figure out how to create your own report on that. I just reach out to Alexis and have him add it to the leaps for me, and then I have my report. But you can't always do that, right? So you have to figure out how to create your own report and how to make sure you're accurately displaying and explaining those artifacts.
Yeah, and I think people don't. I call those. Well, you explain two things. You explain the stuff that you write about the report, the tool report, and then the tool report, and how sometimes the tool report is not up to spec, and you have to create kind of your own. So I get that. Now I want to talk about the first part, the part, that one that you write. I call that a narrative, your narrative of your work, right? And I believe, this is an opinion, I believe some people are afraid of writing out narratives in detail. And why would that be? Well, because when you write a narrative and you bring that to court, guess what's going to happen with that narrative? It's going to be what?
Get questioned.
It's going to, bingo, you're going to get questioned, right? And people don't want to be questioned.
Right.
and my take on that is, well, that's why you're here, to be able to, look, if you're working on something and you're not sure, reach out to other colleagues. Make sure you understand what's going on. Make your narrative, because we depend on you to explain these to the stakeholders, to the board, to the boss, to the juries, to the prosecutors, to the defense attorney that is depending on you to help in defend properly this accused person, right? You have to write your narratives and not be afraid of them, because you know your stuff, and if you don't know it, then you can learn it. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why people are afraid of that. They don't wanna be questioned too hard. So they think the solution is, well, I'm not gonna say that much. And actually, the flip side of that is when you don't say a lot. I mean, when you're not really specific on certain things, you end up having more questions than what you would have otherwise if you had made a good narrative.
Or no questions at all, because it's not understood, and whoever receives the evidence is just not even going to use it because they don't understand.
Ooh, my goodness, yeah. And it could be I mean, it could be a disaster in the sense of, in the criminal sense, a miscarriage of justice, or something not coming across as it should, and make a big difference in a case. Right.
That kind of leads into my next point, though, perfectly. So never guess what artifacts might mean and report based off of your forensic guessing. I use that term because I hate it. But if you find something in an extraction that's pertinent to your case, and you know that it's going to be highlighted at a trial, you have to validate what your assumption is. It's fine to sit in your office and be like, oh, I think this is what this means, or I'm pretty sure this is what this means. But even if you're 99% sure of what an artifact means, and if it's going to be a key artifact in your case, it needs to be verified. You need to know you're correct in that narrative, in that write-up. So testing, verifying every artifact in a case, is anybody going to do that? Not a chance. But,
absolutely.
But the items that are important have to be.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to comment, because you're hitting great points. I just want to quickly, before I hit on those, share some of the comments from the chat. Jessica's saying that, she has a strong opinion on this, and I agree with her. The narrative is what explains the truth of the data, and that is our job. Like that's the part, that's the value that you bring where you explain that data. I also have a comment here how it shows prosecutors or stakeholders what the value of that information is. If we're not doing that, then what are we doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I just had a point you had to make a second ago. and I lost it for showing the comments. Give me a quick synopsis of the last thing you said, and I'll pick up from that.
So I was just saying the forensic guessing. Never guess.
Oh,
You can
thank
guess in your office.
Thank you. Yeah. So I was not getting into that. So there's a thing I want folks to understand, right? And I agree with you. No forensic guessing. And this speaks to how, as examiners, we need to keep a constant growth mindset. I say that because, true, some things will come down to a validation and a verification, but some things will come down to your expert opinion. And an expert opinion is not the same as a forensic guessing. It's really different. It's not the same thing, right? You build on your knowledge, your training, and your experience to explain what's the highly likely probability of something coming out the way it did. And that's your expert opinion. That's something that if you consult other experts, hopefully 9 out of 10 dentists will agree with you. Right? I say dentist because of the toothpaste, remember? Anyways.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I know the commercial.
Okay, good. Okay. Whew.
First time I knew what you were talking about.
Okay, good. Right? So, and I really, and again, that your research, your validation, your testing will build upon you the experience, the knowledge, the training, the experience enough to be able to say, well, in my expert opinion, based on my training and experience, this is what's happening here. This is how this behavior on the phone relates to the behavior of the user. And it's not guessing. If you think an expert opinion is me, well, I think it might be this. That's my opinion. You're not understanding what you're actually conveying, right? So expert opinion and forensic guessing, they're not at all the same thing.
So some of the components of a good report, in my opinion, notes. You have to have a detailed account of what you did with the device the second it comes into your custody. So how you received the item. Was it powered on, powered off, damaged, locked? Did you have to manipulate the device to obtain the extraction? Are there identifying markings? How did you extract the data from the device? What tools, including the versions, and why include the versions? If you have to go back and do another extraction, or maybe there was a bug in the tool in a certain version, documenting those versions is going to be really, really important. So you know if any of that occurred in that certain case. And then what type of extraction also is super important to make sure it's documented.
Oh, yeah. There's been cases where how a tool describes a field might change the interpretation of what actually happened. And the tool wasn't wrong. The tool is showing you the data that's there. Yep. But the tool maker put, let's say, timestamp on a field and creation timestamp, and it may not be a creation timestamp. It might be a timestamp for something else, right? And just the word creation, it might not be wrong. Maybe it's creation in a different sense, but it changes the meaning. So when I agree with you. When you have down those versions, right? As things move along to the case, then we can refer to those and explain why things show the way they were shown, because we did it at that time with this version. And now, as the case has progressed, we have been able to refine that understanding based on new tooling, new versioning, or testing and validation. Right.
If all of this is not documented too, how is the examiner supposed to remember what they did? I know I don't even know how many cases I have. And sometimes it's years before you have to testify on a case or have to go back and look at that case again, and what you've done and how many cases have you done since that case. So I would forget what I did on a particular case if I didn't have good detailed notes outlining every step I took.
Oh, absolutely. And that goes to what Lori is saying in the chat, right? It must be repeatable because that one makes it forensic, right? Being able to say, okay, examiner, unknown examiner, here's the process, and do it. But to your point, to me, and I agree with you, we work so many cases, right?
Yeah.
Even in one case, you might have like 5 phones and 10 computers, right? Yeah. So what happened with computer A? Well, dude, I need to refresh my recollection.
Definitely.
And that's how it is. I've been in court where I know what happened, but it's so much of it that I need my recollection to be refreshed. And what do I get? I get the report. If I wrote a crappy report, there's gonna be problems. Actually, I got a story for that, but no, I cannot. Okay, well, anyways, the point is this: make sure we write good reports.
Yes.
And when you need them, they'll come to your aid, and you will remember. Oh, of course, this is what happened. Boom, 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 boom. But if you don't take those notes, You might find yourself, what's the saying in English? Up a creek without a paddle? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. I got it. Good.
Also, though, without those detailed notes, so suppose someone else has to testify for you. For some reason, you're not available or you're not around anymore. You're not available. They need to have a document of all of the actions you took in your case so that they're able to, one, reanalyze it and make sure they agree with your findings. But two, I couldn't testify. I couldn't testify to a case if I didn't know all the steps that were taken in those beginning stages of the process.
Oh, yeah. And I want to share a comment here from Sam. I can tell from the report if the analyst understands the case, and which is true. And I want to frame that in the context of peer review. All right, before you put stuff out, have another analyst, another examiner go through your stuff, and they might tell you, I think you're not interpreting this or understanding it correctly, right? And or maybe what you have is correct, but maybe we present it in this other manner. It's actually more to the point of what you're trying to make. Yeah. So thanks for that comment. That your reporting has to go to some sort of peer review, and I understand some of us are in. Well, I mean, not me anymore, but some folks might be in single. Examiner labs, when you're the person that does the labs and fixes the computers and deals with the internet and installs things. I get it, right? Yeah. But when we spoke about it last time, make sure you start making a circle of colleagues that you can reach out for mentoring, for guidance, for peer reviews, and start building community, even if you're in a one-person lab.
Agree. So Sam works in my office and he does all of my reviews and all of most of the examiners in our office reviews. So I definitely get that comment he just made. You can tell if the person doing the work has any idea what the artifacts mean just by the report.
Absolutely.
So I would say when it gets time to actually start crafting or start doing the analysis, as I'm analyzing extracted data from a device, I'm always crafting the report in my head as I go. By the time I'm ready to write the report, I already know exactly how I want it to look. Now I just have to get the tool reports to fit what I have in my head, and then my written report to fit that. But keep in mind of your end product as you're working on the analysis and all the way through the analysis.
And that comes with experience. You might be a new person and think, oh, how do I do that?
Right.
and don't worry, it comes with experience. It comes with you understanding. When you start working the case, you know how the phone works. You have this background of information that as you see artifacts coming through your purview, you're able to start creating, like Heather says, in your image, a picture of what's happening in the real world at that time and how those things go together. And you don't write those immediately, right? You start creating that in your mind, and then you put it in a good, really way of doing it. One comment here, I want to share a comment here. Jessica Hyde says that check out the peer review checklist for mobile forensics. Yeah. She has, Exordia has done, and I think it's Exordia was, I can't remember, it was another on the DFRWS. So Jessica will correct me in the chat if DFRWS or it was Exordia. But either way, they put together a great peer review checklist for mobile forensics that you can check out. And it's checklists for me are really good starting points and to make a solid peer review process. You don't the checklist is not the end point. It's a solid starting point to make sure that your end point, your finished product is of quality. So we're gonna look at that. I don't have the link here, but we're gonna look it up and put it in the show notes so folks can benefit from it.
So with the artifacts, if it's important to your case, explain it. Explain what it is. Explain how it relates to the other artifacts in your report. Explain how it relates to your case. Explain how it got on the device. Explain if it was shared, if it was deleted. Explain the location you found it and what that location means. And if you do not explain it there's a high likelihood that no one will ever understand why you included it or how it relates to your case.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, especially, I would say new folks, but this applies to everybody. You got to take note of the things Heather is sharing with you. You will see your users react to those changes positively. Your prosecutors really delving into your report and getting the information that's actionable that they need to make their case.
Yeah. And they want to know that, like, the prosecutors in my area, they want to know what all this stuff means, and they remember it. A lot of times, the next time I go to court on a different case, So being able to explain that is super important.
Yeah, it's part of building that brand. People know what to expect from you as an examiner, and what is things that you're teaching them, right? You're actually teaching them. You're not giving them just a fish. You're teaching them, in a sense, to fish, right? Yeah. Because they can now look at those reports and really have a sense of that mental picture that you're trying to portray to them.
Right, and they're better able to better prosecute the case when they know what something means and they know what questions to ask.
Absolutely.
So another thing, if you're using language that's not known to others, whether it be others outside of your agency or others outside of the DFIR community, define what you're talking about. So I use CSAM as an example because not everybody knows what CSAM means. We do, a lot of us do. The jury is going to have no idea what you're talking about if you say CSAM in your report. So spelling it out as child sex abuse material and defining those terms in your report and in your testimony is super, super important.
I had a case where I had to explain how the user was accessing certain files, and it's the LNK files or link files. You have to explain what that is. Well, these files are created in this manner. They have this information. They keep this data stands from here to here. And then after you set that table, set that groundwork, then you can say, therefore, the user was accessing these things at this time, right? You have to make those. I had another case where I had to do I did a little bit of virtualization. So I took one of those share programs. I took some of those data lists that indicate what the person was sharing, and I put it in a virtual machine, and I opened it. And I showed, look, this is how the user saw it. This is not the user computer, but this is the information that was in the user. And then you explain what it is. Right. And then that makes some sense. If you don't explain those terms, you cannot assume that your users know what you're talking about. You have to write your reports like they don't know, because they don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And in my agency, we spend a lot of time training our examiners on how to properly define technical terms. We call them tech terms. And we spend a lot of effort, conscious effort in our training program to do that. I don't want people to be kind of like forensic guessing what that means, right? No, we have a way of saying it, and we try to impress that upon our trainees in their growth process.
And then the last thing I wanted to touch on for reporting, which I think is really important, is timelining. So the way that tools report artifacts often groups the artifacts, and the way that they're grouped in, whether it be category like these are all web history or these are all calls, doesn't always get that timeline of events across in your report, right? So the timeline's lost. We see calls over in this section, we see messages over in this section, and even though they relate to each other and they're important, if you don't have a good way of timelining that for a report, it may not be depicted in the way that you want it to be depicted to present your case. So whoever is going to create me the perfect timelining tool out there, I'm ready for it.
The whole forensic process, it's the foundation is timestamps, timelining, when things happen. Yes. And if you look at a lot of our I want to say, I'm not a lawyer, right? and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn last night. That's a really old reference. Actually, I don't blame you if you don't get it. Okay. Yeah, I don't blame. It's really old, but the charges, right? The legal, the statutes, right? They require, when did this happen, right? Because if it happened too long ago, then what happens with that charge? It gets dropped. But what's the word I'm looking for? It gets oh my goodness! When a charge is too old and you cannot charge it anymore. I forgot the word now.
Like beyond the statute of limitations.
Hey, that's the word. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. It might be that. It's beyond the statute of limitations, right? So it needs to have a timestamp. A timestamp and a lot of charges. When did it happen? Do we have jurisdiction, right? So the combination of, even the when it happened, the when did it happen? And I think we agree on this. I know we agree on this. Our tools do a poor job at timelining. Yes. How they represent that, and sometimes how they represent it in the tool looks great, and then when you put it in the report, it looks like crap.
Yes, or it's missing half of the data that you see in the tool.
Yeah. So I've been making this point for a couple of years now. Hopefully, reporting really gets the attention or at least a quarter of the attention that some of the AI tooling is getting.
Yeah. I wish it would come first. I'd love a nice report before we add all of the fancy bells and whistles, but
yeah. And again, it's a general comment, all right? Nobody think I'm talking about any particular company in or anything
it's
like
all.
that. Oh yeah, we again, we're not shills and we're not haters. We're just commenting.
So, I mean, those are the elements that I find to be super important for my forensic reports. If anybody, I don't know if anybody in the comments had anything to add or.
Let me share, because I want to show quickly, because Jessica gave me the link for the checklist. So I wanna show people how that looks. If I could actually, let me pull this out here. There we go. So let me see if I can share it, because I don't want to share a screen that I shouldn't be sharing. Which one is screen 2? Let's hope it's screen 2. Yeah, screen 2. Perfect. All right. So let me make this big. So what you see here is from the Exordia page. And again, we'll put the link. It's a little bit long, but we'll put the link in the show notes. You can see here peer review for mobile forensics. And then you can press the button to download the PDF. I'm going to scroll down. And for folks that are listening, you can see here, for example, a section for scope. Do you have scope? And all the items you need for scope. The acquisition tools. Do we have all the aspects needed in regards to verification, in regards to how you got this is a forensic tool, not forensic tool, and the list goes on and on, right? And it's a really, really, really detailed. It gives you forms, so how you document your tooling and your reporting. So please check that out. It has, like I said, peer review for mobile checklist and the tool reporting document. So we're gonna put that on that link on the show notes.
Good. That's all I have for reporting, but definitely a topic that I am super interested in.
We'll keep being that voice in the desert and making sure that the companies at some point up their game in the reporting.
Yes. Please.
In the reporting section. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about another blog that came out, and this is by Lori, who is in our chat tonight, and she did research related to the use of walkie-talkie style applications. She specifically chose the application Buzz. It's B-U-Z. And Buzz advertises that the app allows you to effortlessly connect with family and friends, stay connected through voice, even when your phone is locked. So she, in her blog, definitely go check it out. I'll put the link up in a second. But she creates a mock story to go along with her research, which I absolutely love. And she details the process of generating the test data really thoroughly. She investigates the storage locations and the databases related to the application. And then at the end, she says her next project is to write a Python parser for iLeap. So I'm super excited to see your parser for iLeap, Lori.
Oh, absolutely. And that's definitely a happy moment.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have the fireworks.
I put some fireworks there celebrating. I'm going to be communicating with Lori and kind of helping her a little bit, kind of kickstart that process on automating her research. and I like the story a lot. Like, they went and were trying to steal some things, how they're communicating. Yeah. That was pretty neat. It was pretty engaging read.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think I've ever seen the mock story in another blog. Not that I've read anyway. I thought it was a great idea.
Oh, I agree. And that's a good example for, again, folks, if you're new in the field, you do what Lori did, and we all benefit, right? Yeah. We're going to create an artifact. If you see that coming across your data sets, it's going to be picked up automatically. And do the same thing. Look for different apps that you think have value. Do a study. Make a mock case out of it, and let us know. And if you want to learn how to automate some of that, I have a full free class on YouTube on how to use Python to make those if you want to do that. Or use one of the third-party tools or custom artifacts from tooling to make it, and start sharing that information. So again, Lori, thank you for that blog post. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. So what's new with the leaps these last 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I know some of it.
Oh yeah, no, I got a great contribution from an expert that lives in New York, that works for the New York State Police. Why don't you tell us about her work, Heather? What did she do?
Oh yeah, I don't think I know her.
I think you do.
So, not myself and another analyst in my office actually found some data related to the Uber app, and it's level DBs in an iOS, which I think this is the first time that I've actually seen level DBs in an iOS that I needed to get the data right. Oh my god.
Sam is saying that she wouldn't stop talking about it this morning at work.
I was very excited. So I may have gone around saying that I created my second artifact for iLeap yesterday. So yes, I'm excited about it. Leave me alone, Sam.
And you should be excited about it.
Yes, yeah. So I didn't create the parser for the level DB stuff. Alexis did. But I created one for a database related to the Uber places. So it was places that were visited with the Uber app. And go ahead, tell about your level DBs.
Yeah. So before we go into level DBs, I'm not gonna let her downplay her effort. Okay, it's a SQLite database that has JSON in it, right? And
Okay,
she went
right.
and she was able to use JSON extract functionalities, understand what the keys and the values are, if there are lists or dictionaries within them, that's other key value pairs, and she parsed them like a boss.
I complained a little because I don't understand why there's like lists inside dictionaries, inside other things. Like, just put it there for me, but they don't. And I did figure it out, though.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We're gonna continue to have this ongoing discussion.
No, we'll skip that.
No, you will get it.
Okay.
No, I mean, I wish it was simpler, but no, it is what it is. And actually, you did a great job. So I want to folks know that I'm really proud of that work, and that's pretty awesome, right?
I actually like the challenge anyway. I'm just complaining to complain.
That makes it fun too.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing, folks, the thing with this type of stuff is that is Uber an important part of your cases? It is. Even if your case is not about Uber itself, right? Something that happened with Uber, and I'm gonna go into it right now, has location data. Okay,
Yeah.
because if you're a driver or if you're a rider, it stays within the app. And the interesting thing that Heather and her office, their coworker, and some analysts there found was that they're using level DBs, and we are so used at seeing level DBs in the context of the browsers or maybe FCMs in Androids. And again, we talk about this in other episodes, so I don't want to relabor the point for folks that are regular listeners. If you're not a regular listener, go a few episodes back. Okay, we're used to seeing them there. But this is the first time that me or Heather or myself have seen it as being the main data structure for an app, which I found it to be super interesting. What it has on the inside has the typical level DB formatting key values, but the binary large object in it is JSON. It says here, the parser sounds uber helpful.
Yeah, I had to put that one
it sure
up.
does. Well, that's why I started the show saying that Heather was the Uber decoder. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Get it now, right? The Uber decoder. So, but yeah, no, it has JSON data within it, and when you look at it, it tells you the timestamp. It tells you the lat and the longs, the speed, movement of the vehicle. It tells you a little bit of what the app was doing, right? Are you searching for a rider, right? Because you're a driver. Are you at the home screen? Are you at what screen are you, right? There's a bunch of data inside those level DBs. I believe that most examiners in our space are not aware that they even exist. Okay? And that's troubling because we're seeing it more and more. By the way, we're going to be discussing level DBs in excruciating detail in 9 days.
Yes.
In the IASIS class. You'll be bored. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna know a lot about them. So, but yeah, it's important. Look, I got folks saying that there's been capital in the chat, capital murder convictions based on Uber data, right? And some of that data you can get obviously through legal process, right? But when there's data on the device that you can get that immediately, that might be actionable for your case, you cannot put a price on it. I don't want to wait weeks to get something when I have it right in my hand right now, and I could give it to my detectives or my agents and go out and continue the case immediately. The more as time passes, and we talked this about other episodes, that as time passes, evidence degrades. Digital evidence degrades, real world evidence degrades, recollections of witnesses degrade with time. We need to move fast. And one way is being aware of this data store so we can get to the data as quickly as possible.
So also with the leaps, a new vehicle artifact, right?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up because, So, and really thank you because, and I mentioned in the last episode, we're really going to be focused on working vehicle extractions after IASIS in July to the end of the year. And hopefully we can get a lot of support for vehicles because vehicles, again, I'm going to repeat it, I believe will be one of our main data sources moving forward for as long as they're available. Most of them are not in an encrypted state, so we can get to them. And even if they started encrypting all cars today, right, you're going to have cars that are not in that state that came out in previous years on the road for decades, right?
Right.
So there will be always a good data source. So you gave me some data, some test data, and I made a parser for a RAM 16 or 15 or 1600. I forgot what the number was.
1500.
1500 RAM. And I was surprised how much data was there. We got geolocations, and the interesting thing for me as a developer was that these logs are text files, right? You can read them with your eyes, right? But they were compressed as .gc files, a compressed format. And if you don't decompress it and then go into it, you're not gonna get to it.
Right.
And sometimes our tools, if you don't set them correctly, they might not decompress those files, which means they will not get those files in the clear text, which means they will not be indexed, which means that if you look for lat and long, you will not get hits on those files, even though they are full of lat and longs, like latitudes and longitudes, right? Does that make sense, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you gotta look at your sources and make sure that you're taking the steps to make sure that data is there. Christopher Vance is saying, and again, I cannot respect Chris Vance more. He works for, any more than I do right now. He works for Magnet, one of the lead researchers there. He agrees 10 out of 10 agree on vehicles. It's a chance to keep our chip off skills relevant. And
yes.
Absolutely, Heather. I mean, explain to the folks why he's saying that about chip offs.
Like all the vehicles we're doing chip offs on. If they're not supported by one of the only tools, Burla, right? Then we're taking the memory chip off and reading that data and either parsing it ourselves or hoping that maybe Burla will parse some of the data from the chip off, or going to VLeap or other tools that might handle vehicles. But chip off is super relevant in vehicle forensics right now.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time we used to do it for phones, but phones became file-based encryption, and it's useless. I mean, I guess you could get a chip off from a phone, a bunch of encrypted data. Good luck, you're not gonna get into it. But cars are not like you're saying; like they're not like that so far. So we get some data. Like Jessica's saying in the chat, people update phones more frequently than cars.
Yeah.
Some cars get updated like never. So they're good data sources, and obviously I'm gonna have people understand. Some people sometimes don't understand where we're coming from. We're talking about every conversation we have about this type of topics in this podcast is about lawful access. What that means is that we go and we make sure that there's a victim that consents to get this data, or we go to the legal process with probable cause, prosecutors, and judges to agree for us to do this. There is no circumstance where we would do any of this analysis just because. Right. Because we're curious, because I have the ability and I have the tools. That's not a thing. And if that happens, because it has happened, the person responsible will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I want to make that clear for folks that are not in our field. We talk about this because it's our field, right? But it goes on the assumption that all this data is extracted and accessed with lawful extraction for lawful purposes. So let's make that crystal clear.
Also new with the leaps, we have a new blog by Stark Forensics, Kevin, about the Splitwise app.
And that was an interesting app because it's an app for money. And if there's one thing that will help you on your case, is following the money. Yeah. And that app has information about groups of of accounts where you pay things, where you receive money, send money, where do you send it to? And this is a good example of why doing CTFs is important. So Kevin was looking at the Belkasoft CTF image, and he found out that Splitwise app was installed there, and he made his analysis, and if he found tons of good information for that app, he immediately made a blog post, immediately made an artifact for the leaps for it. And again, if you make those artifacts, you automate them. When you run your next extraction, they're gonna come and kind of be apparent, which they wouldn't be otherwise. And if you're not looking for it, at least the tool will look it for you. And I'm gonna make one quick point on that. My habit in my cases is I run my tools, I look at the things that I know I have there, and I do a sanity check. That means if it's an Android device, I look at the data folder, and look at the bundle like this, glance them to make sure there's not one that kind of sticks out that I haven't seen before. So I look, right? If I'm doing an iOS, you cannot do that with iOS. But what you can do is I have a list that with my own tooling based on different data sources in iOS devices that tells me all the apps that are installed with their names. And I go quickly and do a sanity check, make sure that I'm not missing something let me rephrase that. Making sure that the tool is not missing something that needs to be looked at. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I mean, a lot of times I'll bring it into one of the commercial tools and I immediately go right to the installed applications. Because it's not going to just show you the installed applications that the tool supports. It'll show you all of the applications. So take a look through and find the ones, you're right, that you don't recognize or that the tool is saying they don't support.
Well, let me give folks a little bit of an advanced suggestion, right? And again, this is fine, or you're doing it's fine. It's not wrong, and I do it too. But I really like doing, how can I say this? Let me step back. In iOS, there's two easy main ways of figuring out if applications are installed. The application state.db. That's what everybody uses. It's a database that has those there. But there's also, and Jessica's agreeing with me, right? The app state.db. But there's also every application folder has a file that starts with a dot. When a file in a Unix, Linux, macOS system starts with a dot, it's invisible to the user. Okay, it starts with a dot. That plist that starts with a dot has information about the app that resides in that directory. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yes.
All right. My tooling, but the Leap tooling, the community tooling, takes those dot files and extracts that information for them. Why is that important? Sometimes, and I've seen it more than once, when you delete an application on an iOS device, it will leave the app state database, but that folder of the app, it hasn't been garbage collected yet when you make the image. And you find a folder, it's empty, it doesn't have stuff, but it has that dot file there. And you can say, look, this phone doesn't seem like this application is here, but that folder is there and it belonged to this application. An example that might be real or not, the Dropbox application was deleted before the officers got to the phone, right? And it doesn't show in the app state DB, but the folder wasn't garbage collected, and the dot file, the plist inside of it, told me that that GUID folder was for the Dropbox application, which is the reason we were at that door that day. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
So I'm just gonna giving the folks like an extra step to possibly take when they're dealing with this. Always think of have a sanity check.
Yeah.
To make sure you're not missing something. That's the big takeaway.
Agree 100%. So that brings us to everybody's favorite, the meme of the week.
Woohoo!
Where's your fireworks, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, they're right here. Actually, since I used the fireworks already, I think I'm gonna go with some lasers. There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. Some confetti just for good measure. All right.
So I am pretty sure this is my new favorite. I absolutely love this meme. I can't scroll in. Okay. So we have 9 different scenarios of monitors for a digital forensic analyst, right? The one monitor computer for the new examiner, the very large screen monitor for an examiner, 2 monitors for the reviewer, a monitor and a longer monitor for the examiner.
Which, by the way, the reviewer has 2 monitors, but there's 2 small monitors.
Small,
okay?
yeah, small monitors.
I'm sorry, reviewer. I'm not gonna give you my curve OLED. You're gonna get two little monitors and be happy with that.
And then it goes on. It goes on with 9 different versions. My very favorite is number 6, though. We have 6 monitors, 3 stacked on 3, and that is the supervisor that does not do forensics. And I think that's why I love this meme. That's why I love this meme the best.
I think this meme had a whole bunch of hundreds of reactions and a whole bunch of 40-something comments, and I think it's because everybody knows that supervisor that has the best equipment, even though they do none of the technical work.
Yes.
let me see, Sam, we're not, look, this is a general comment. We're not talking about your office, okay, or about any specific office, not even my office. It's other people's office.
I actually made that joke because one of our bosses, our supervisors, has that setup, but he does do a lot of forensics still too, so I can't really pick on him about it. But I did show him the meme, and he looks at his setup and he's like, oh no.
And look, and even if he didn't, you better say that he did, okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, the setups, and I think the setups, again, I come up with these because it's a reflection of what we do day to day, and we see ourselves in it, and we laugh about it. But it's true, right? At the end of the day, we deal with what we have, and what we have will reflect who we are. And my monitors, I had the 8, which is two big vertical monitors and 1 horizontal, but I changed it. Now I have a big kind of curved monitor. Yep. It took me years to be able to procure that. Government procurement, you know how it is. And then I have some smaller ones, but again, that changes. Before we close the show, I want to Chris actually looked up, I mean, he knows it by memory, the file that we're talking about, the .plist file, is the .com.apple.mobile container management.metadata plist. And I leave those like Chris is saying in the chat, but en masse. You have I make a list and what application is relevant to that particular plist, and so check that out. You will get a real good sense of what's been installed on that device. But going back to the memes, I think we should not only portray the truth of our cases and our work, but also share with each other what makes the job funny, what makes the job fun, what makes the job us, right? And start building that community also through that. A lot of our job is serious, traumatic in some ways, right? But we can also take joy and let that happiness also, go as far as we can. And this is one way we can do it.
And we can use it to pick on the supervisors that don't do forensics. So, I mean, it's a win-win.
There's a meme that is like, pick the Uno cards, like one card, like what's it? Oh yeah, stop picking on your bosses or take 25 Uno cards. And I have 50 Uno cards now. I will make fun of them. I'm kidding. Actually, I have a really good boss, by the way. I'm just and I'm not kidding about that. So a commenter in LinkedIn is saying, keep the memes coming. Now, don't you worry. My field of memes has been planted, and the memes are growing. So you don't have to worry about that. Well, Heather, I think we've reached the end of the show.
We have.
Thank you, everybody. At this point, we're not looking at the clock anymore. We just go.
Yeah.
This is our show. This is our show, and we'll stop whenever we feel like it.
Exactly.
Oh no! I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did.
Yes, absolutely.
And I hope the folks listening and watching enjoyed it as well. Please reach out to us on our LinkedIn, Digital Forensics Now podcast. Send us your ideas for topics. Send us your questions. Send us your comments. Making constructive, please. I'm sensitive.
I'll deal with those other comments.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And any last word for the good of the order, Heather?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, we'll be seeing each other at IASIS. We don't know what we're gonna do. I'm hoping to do something. We'll see.
Yeah.
Something fun during the IASIS week. So we'll see what we can come up with. But our next podcast will be through the training in IASIS. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
And with that, everybody, have a good night. See you soon.
Have a good night.
Bye.